AP New Age Token Rule for Children Online. Andhra Pradesh is planning a major digital step to protect children online. The state government is evaluating an age token system to restrict social media access for children under 13. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu says the government is preparing a framework that could be ready within the next 90 days. The idea is simple. Introduce secure digital age tokens that verify whether a user is eligible to access social media platforms or not. This would help enforce age limits more effectively. The system may be linked to DigiLocker, India's first official digital document wallet. Here's how it could function. Users receive a verified digital age token. Platform checks eligibility using that token. Personal identity details are not shared. The technology may rely on zero knowledge proofs. That means platforms can confirm whether someone meets the age requirements or not. This is of course to see that it is made safer for children who are not really ready to face what they are facing, this onslaught of social media. But then let's go to the guest and find out if it is foolproof. We have Karthik Yellapragada, who's national spokesperson for the YSRCP, and Nallamuthu Chakravarti, political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Very, very important, debate. This is, more for securing and seeing that our kids are safe. First to you, Karthik. Karthik, every system can be busted. Everything has a thing. In this, I was reading about it, Karthik. What struck me is that you need to have an Aadhaar card, and after all, everyone needs to. I mean, I travel, DigiLocker, I need Aadhaar card, when is my flight, etc., etc. I find it cumbersome, but it's finally very easy for me to get into an airport. Karthik, how many kids will have Aadhaar card, whether they will be, the entire process seems like a nightmare, Karthik, to me.
Yeah, thanks, Sudhaji, for having me in the show.
Pleasure.
I'd rather, in this particular debate, I'd rather paraphrase myself not as a YSRCP spokesperson, but a technocrat and a father as well, because I'd put a personal angle to this, because this is something, an important topic for sure. To start with, the very idea of having an ill content towards the children as a very idea, that's a great idea. There's no question about that.
Sure.
Several countries, several states, several economies have already tried this. But in Andhra Pradesh, I don't want to get in a lot of political aspects in this conversation as well. But the buzzwords become so important these days, Sudhaji. Things like blockchain, things like hyperloop, heavily being discussed between 14 and 19. We don't see any of that. At various categories, I'll actually debunk what's the real factual, and I've really prepared in last couple of hours, like how the global context looks here, Sudhaji. So for an instance, when you talk at the legal angle of this, right, the Section 79 of IT Act, it clearly says that the prerogative is with the central government and state law cannot be imposing any compliance to any global intermediaries. And that's an IT Act of Section 79. And as a precedent, Sudhaji, if you see, Karnataka government is already fighting with the Union of India with one of the global platforms already, because that isn't working. And Andhra Pradesh acknowledging the very fact that it will submit the recommendations to Union government in next 90 days. Come on, Sudhaji. 90 days, that really bothers me. That can't happen in 90 days because, you can't enforce laws without having proper mechanics being established and enough, all the feedbacks have been taken.
Okay.
And I'll conclude, Sudhaji.
Sure.
What happens is also the union list, the Act of 2000 denies that. It's not a state's prerogative. 69A, it's not a state's prerogative,
Okay.
right? And globally, I'll conclude, globally, I've been living in Europe since last 11 years, to say. I've studied in Europe, I've been in France, I've been in Norway, I've been in Spain, I've studied there as well. So what happens is, for the last many, many years, France has started, until late 2026, they're not kicking this off. Several years they've taken only to get things prepared. Norway, the effectiveness is coming in 2027. After several years of preparation. Spain, the same thing is happening. And also, Sudhaji, they bring up Australia, for an instance.
Yes.
There are 4.7 million accounts that got detected in Australia. And between 8 to 12 age, 84% of the usage is being shown. You know what's the reality, Sudhaji? The problem is only 25% is believed that this is actually worked out. What's the policy versus actuals is actually the whole point here. How do you regulate a parent and a child, because that is within the civic sense of that
Yeah,
particular family.
even I was
That,
thinking about the same thing about regulating. Nallamuthu Chakravarti, thank you so much for your patience.
Right.
Do you think, what Karthik says is certain points he makes, and mainly the kernel of it is, how do you evaluate, first of all, how do you put deterrence, as it were, and then in 90 days seems implausible. What is your reaction to this entire thing of getting a token and about, verifying it, and then your child can perhaps get onto a social media platform? Nallamuthu.
I know you opened this as a debate, but we might all be in furious agreement here. I am in complete agreement with Karthik about that the state government does not have the authority to regulate the internet usage, especially the entry 31 in the union list. Exclusively puts this kind of communication, especially the internet-related regulation, in the laps of the central government. So this might all be more of positioning, politics, more than anything else. Besides that, I'm a champion of individual liberty. So, we all want to protect our children from social media, and I have 2 children who just went to college, undergrad. So I know what kind of issues could arise. But at the same time, I think social media is a fantastic resource of learning. So there is good and bad, like everything else. And banning, I feel, is an outrageous, overreach of the state. That's one. The second thing is a serious privacy issue. See, anytime if you want to stop children from getting on the social media, then everybody has to be validated. Even Sudhaji has to be validated, whether she's 17 or 30 or 40 or whatever her age is. So your privacy is gone right there. And our government's track record of protecting people's privacy is very scanty.
Yeah.
If you look at Aadhaar, data has been leaked practically for everybody. And during COVID, the union government came up with this application CoWIN that was breached. So the government does not have a great track record of protecting individuals' privacy.
Yeah.
So there are any number of issues in this. It sounds very romantic to say I'm protecting your children, but this is like a cradle to grave government, wanting to manage every aspect of people's life. Parents should be responsible. We should ask parents to trust parents to monitor their children and raise their children.
Even I think there is good and bad. I mean, books were given to us. We read what we wanted to, but there was a clause I kept whether I'm reading books which I'm not supposed to read at that age, and it was taken away, but after explaining that it's not for you. Karthik, you were raising your hand. I want to ask you, because I've got 3 minutes into the show, I want to ask you, Karthik, that then how does, he puts it very well, Nallamuthu. He says you're a parent, be responsible, keep an eye out. It's also knowledge, it's other things, but then there are also people dying by suicide. I've seen people being influenced.
There you go.
The selfie culture, which I detest, and I'm saying this on air, where you're taking selfies before trains, you're taking selfies, when you're going scuba diving. What does one do as a parent who's lost a child, perhaps?
Sudhaji, I think I can't agree more what Mr. Chakravarti has put forth. That's well said. There are about 8.4 million kids in Andhra Pradesh, roughly about, as per recent statistics, right? Half of them go to private schools, half of them go to public schools. The base of the pyramid here is very important for countries like India and also Andhra Pradesh, for instance, right? You've got working class where, kids have got different priorities. This is not a priority. Let's not get lost with the buzzwords of IT, social media ban. How do you enforce that policy is the big question. And getting that done in 90 days, how on earth that is possible? Where,
absolutely.
how on earth, like when these advanced countries have been debating this since many, many years, even then in 2027, those have been challenged in Senate. And respective lower or upper houses of the respective countries, and that's not possible. And also, sir, I'll take a small irony. Mr. Naidu comes out and tells that I cannot use the cell phone as much as what my grandson uses, and that's on record. Huh? I'm not saying this. I don't want to politicize this. But now, on one side, Mr. Naidu tells his grandson wants to use, or he's using best of the mobile phones, and on the other side, he wants to enforce kids not to use mobile phones. In 8th standard kids have gotten tabs. The problem is, the question is, regulation is not the only way. There are many other ways where technology could solve it. Where, in the tabs, you could restrict all your IPs, you could, whatever, software, but I know we're running short on time. this is more like a ziggy-pockery of words that the current government is using,
Yeah, I've got
and not taking enough importance on other
very well
subjects.
said.
So,
1 minute, Nallamuthu. I want to also add one thing. Isn't it insulting the intelligence of the kids? I mean, it's not that I'm only going to be doing social media and not sit for my exams. They know their priorities very well. I'm not saying all, but many. Why are we not taking them into account, Nallamuthu?
No, absolutely. I mean, there is so much of learning that is happening today on social media. And if you cut them out, they are cut off from the rest of the world. In fact, I think it stifles their development if you control their social media. What we need is, healthy monitoring, and there is a plethora of tools that are available for parents to control, both at the operating system level, and there are several tools. I was looking up for this show. There is Apple has Apple Screen, Google has Google Family Link, Microsoft has Microsoft Family Safety, and there are several AI tools like Bark and Net Nanny and so on and so forth. If anything, if the government is really cares about people, then they can educate the parents about the availability of all of these options. But to cut them off, I think it would be very dangerous. It's because it's a great learning tool, which also can do some harm, as you have highlighted. Kids taking these selfies and falling down and accidents, so on and so forth. But there probably is a middle ground, but not a ban or a government regulation telling parents, what to do. And this has failed, by the way, Sudhaji. In South Korea, it has not worked. In Pakistan, actually, Pakistan imposed a ban, and they had to repeal it because it has not worked. The verdict is out on Australia. UK has been trying for 2 years. It has not worked. In South Korea, people, the kids have gone onto the route of VPNs and stealing their parents' IDs and use the social media. So I don't think it can be controlled completely.